Carb counting is one of the trickiest parts of managing diabetes. You could fall into old habits of carb counts or just dose insulin based off of what you're seeing. And even more difficult is understanding how different foods affect you and remembering how foods you had in the past will affect you this time you eat it. But that is about to change with these new AI-powered food tracking apps that are changing the game. Using photos, voice notes, and machine learning, these tools help estimate carb counts and predict glucose responses, empowering users to make smarter decisions. And they open the door for future AI companions that make our day-to-day management even easier. Welcome to the show. I'm Justin. I have type 1 diabetes, and on here I talk all things diabetes tech, news, and management with industry leaders, physicians, and people using the tech themselves. This is our podcast that airs every Monday on podcast platforms and on YouTube in video. And we've got videos that come out on Fridays on YouTube and a bunch of social clips all the time. Today, we are exploring what the future of diabetes care might look like, where AI companions and digital tools help people manage not just diabetes, but other conditions too, by learning from patterns, data, and real-life habits. Joining me is Aurelian Briner, CEO and co-founder of SNAQ, an app that uses AI to help people track food, estimate carbs, it logs exercise, and even helps people understand how their glucose will be affected by the foods they're eating. We dive into how these technologies work, how they're built to avoid AI hallucinations, and what's ahead for AI and diabetes care. I also share my own experience using the SNAQ app so far. This conversation is especially timely since Dexcom just released their smart food log, where users can take pictures and it will itemize what that food is. Doesn't do anything past that yet, but Dexcom's soon-to-be CEO, Jake Leach, who came on the podcast a few weeks ago, told me that that feature is just the beginning of more to come. You should listen to that podcast after you listen to this one. Keep in mind that anything you hear on this podcast or any of my content is not medical advice and is for educational purposes only. Always consult with a physician before making changes to your healthcare. Let's get into it. Aurelian, welcome to the show. It's good to have you here.
Likewise, excited to be here, Justin.
Yeah, I believe we met a couple ATTDs ago, and you showed me your SNAQ app, and I knew I wanted to talk about it at some point, but I think it was this last time we saw each other, and you showed me some of the updates to the app. It just really excited me. And it feels more relevant now than ever with some things happening in the whole landscape. So I'm excited to get into this.
Likewise, and I mean, happy to hear that you got excited about this, as we are, and happy to share more.
Yeah, I've been using it myself, which we'll get into. But before we get into your app and AI food logging and all that, I want to hear about kind of how you got here, because you don't have type 1 diabetes, right?
Yes, you're right. I got into it because my wife got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and that was in 2014. So it's already a while back. Back then, I was at the software company working as product manager, and I was always a bit open towards doing something, trying ideas, and that just felt like a problem worth working on. Like as seeing her, particularly, like being relatively freshly diagnosed back then, like struggling with matching meals and like asking me on on all this, oh, does that contain carbs? And what's the weight of that? And what's the nutritional values? And like, her like carrying around the scale and like doing all that stuff. And it just felt really difficult. And yeah, we hoped to do that better with SNAQ when we started.
Yeah. When did that idea click of creating an app like this?
I mean, we founded the company already a while back. It was in 2017, and together with my co-founder Nico, was a like very like technical background from AI, computer vision, and software engineering. And yeah, like the initial idea was really around, okay, let's use something people use anyway every day, like a smartphone, and allow them to take pictures and estimate the nutritional values, specifically carbs. And from the early days, we focused a lot on the portion sizes, like because back then it was a different age in regards to AI, right? But
Yeah.
like the portion sizes seems to be the more tricky part, and recognizing whether that is a pizza or spaghetti bolognese or mac and cheese, whatever. So that was our initial focus, where we did a lot of research, where we now, like up until now, did a lot of publications and clinical accuracy studies and like granted patents and things like that. So that was really, it's kind of the core of SNAQ since the beginning.
Yeah, AI is such a big buzzword right now. And I mean, so many people, including myself, are using it on a day to day basis for so many things. But AI, machine learning, it has been around for some time. Was there some sort of shift on your end more recently where it unlocked more abilities? Like, kind of tell me about how the AI evolution has helped SNAQ grow over, I guess, since you founded in 2017.
Yeah, I mean, it's at a totally different place right now compared to what
Hmm.
it was in 2017. I mean, yes, the initial things were around, like image recognition was a thing, or one of the more prominent applications around AI already back then. But like, I mean, the pace things are happening since the last 2 years are just like incredibly faster. So like the speed of innovation, the speed on all like how these models get better is something we haven't experienced the previous like 5 to 6 years. And I mean, in our case, what did it enable is, I mean, we were we I think we are pretty close to kind of the dream in regards from a technology point of view, what we had initially when we got started. And it became maybe easier to implement that. So I mean, what does it mean specifically, right? It's way easier and way faster now and way more automated to take pictures, and things are more accurately recognized. You can use not just pictures, but different modalities. You can speak to the app and like explain your full dish, including portion sizes. You click and it works. Or it's just fantastic. So it like reduced the effort so much, or it increased the speed so much on how you are able to track your meals.
Yeah, why did AI food logging feel like the right approach for people with diabetes?
For diabetes and many other conditions, right? That the nutrition topic of food is just the area with huge impact. If you manage better around meals, and then maybe the second bigger part is not during night times, like you'll gain so much. And it's also the most complex piece, uh, I believe. So that's really, we wanted to work on something which has impact. The impact comes first, and then like, yeah, we use AI to achieve that. But at first, we want to solve a problem.
Yeah, so Dexcom recently introduced a smart food log feature on their app. With that, you can take a picture of a food and it will categorize it. It won't do anything beyond that. But what do you think of Dexcom, bringing that to their app?
I mean, I'm personally happy to see. Like, I think it's great for consumers that the big device companies in that space also like innovate. Um, I mean, to us, obviously, this hasn't been that much of a surprise or a breakthrough, because I mean, the first apps doing that they've been on the market like 4 years ago. So that, I mean, obviously, it's a different story when like a smaller startup is doing it versus like a bigger corporate. But still, like the technology has been around, and I mean, yeah, we're happy to see that this has been happening. I mean, looking into the future and maybe in general, like the benefits of AI, like I think it's shifting the power dynamic a little bit between like large companies and small companies, because like AI gives like so incredible tools to for even a small group of smart people to get so much done and iterate at the unbelievable pace. And I would even like question whether let's say like resources in terms of headcount, the output never scaled linearly. So if you have, I mean, I've seen a previous company growing from like a 20-person development team to a 60-person development team. Like the output doesn't scale linearly, by far not. And I think it's even worse these days. Like it's the overhead you generate with a larger team. increased complexity and decreases output. Whereas today, with all these tools and more automation, and I would even argue whether it's actually an advantage to have a smaller team, less legacy, and just iterate fast with less resources, and ultimately you go much further.
Absolutely. I mean, I've seen that in this industry already through all of my interviews and research, where these smaller teams that have more pressure on them are innovating faster. There's less cooks in the kitchen, right? And that allows you to innovate faster. So your app does a lot more. It goes much further than Dexcom's app. What I like about Dexcom bringing this feature is that you're going to have a lot of people now opening their Dexcom app saying, oh, wow, I could take a picture, but what else can I do? And that will probably bring people to your app because there is more they can do. And we're going to get into all of that. But before we dive into SNAQ and what you can do on there, I want to understand the obstacles when you're building a system like this, specifically with counting carbs, with images, or even verbal. What would you say are some of the obstacles that you encountered when building your app?
It is a big leap between like tagging and associating stuff with like glucose with the CGM graph and then actually outputting carbs or fat, protein, fiber, calories, whatever, nutrients. It is, I mean, that step is huge. Like the first step of like the basically this tagging these days with the technology is quite easy from a product slash technology point of view. Obviously, there are like other considerations like marketing and say well, regulatory and so on, which and distribution. But the big leap is to get to the nutrients, or the much bigger leap. And the obstacles we observed along the way, a few things. One key thing is certainly managing expectations and getting the experience right. Very tricky. Like when you think about that technology, that immediately triggers a lot of expectations, like sometimes even like magic expectations of what it is able to do, which when you think about it, maybe 5 seconds long are totally unreasonable to have, but still people somehow have it in their mind. So that has been early on a big focus. And then the other aspect is make it simple. I would say that people find the foods, that it's getting more personalized over time, that it's clear how to use, and whether you search, whether you take a picture, whether you like log it by voice, that you can have your favorite foods, your custom recipes, you have a big database, and so on. So that around the carb counting piece was kind of some of the obstacles. And like along the way, like much of that is like data integration so that you can have your combined data, so meals with glucose, with insulin, with activity, and so on, so that you have everything in context.
Well, what about when it comes to taking images, right? Because they're these photos you're uploading are flat. There's no sense of depth. So how does the AI or the platform figure out how big is that chicken breast? How much pasta is in that bowl from a top-down image or something like that?
Yeah, like actually our initial core technology and research and IP is really around the 3D piece of things. As I said, like we'd focus on the portion estimation, and for portion estimation, for us, like how we derive that is through volumetric estimates. So not like a flat 2D picture, but actually deriving depth to like have like a volume on a like real like 3D picture, and from there like converting it through density into weight. And like there are different ways on how you can do it. Like these days, there are like devices which have the corresponding sensors, like LiDAR sensors and like multiple cameras and so on, which allow you to extract the depth information from the camera. So, but then you have a bit of dependency on the hardware. And we also have that in the app, so you can switch between the different modes, whether you want to estimate the weight as well, or whether it's just kind of a quick capture and there's less estimation on the portion size.
Well, so is your app taking advantage of, say, an iPhone's LiDAR cameras, which take depth? Is it doing that?
Yeah, it's doing that. You can switch in
Oh,
the
wow.
mode on top, and you can in the select the different modes, and then it's doing that. Food needs to be on a table on a plate to do that estimation. It cannot just be like I don't know, a banana which you hold in your hand or a sandwich which you hold in your hand, because then the depth and the way the algorithm then works on the volumetric calculation doesn't work. So there needs to be a bit more guidance, and I mean, back to matching expectation and guidance. That hasn't been always easy to explain on how to do that, but yeah, we'll try our best.
Wow, that's good to know.
This episode is sponsored by Omnipod. As someone with T1D and with an incredibly active lifestyle, it's important for me not to get tied up, especially with tubes on my insulin pump. I love to go swimming, lift weights, and play kickball with friends. And with Omnipod 5, I never have to worry about tubes getting in the way. Plus, not having to disconnect helps me to stay in range during all of my favorite physical activities. That includes sexy time too. See if you're eligible for a 10-day trial by visiting omnipod.com/diabetic. On there, you'll see full safety and risk information and trial terms. That's omnipod.com/diabetic.
Tell me about the different ways that people can log food with this app. I know it's not just images, there are other options there.
Yeah, exactly. That's also something we learned along the way. Like, people want to have different choices, and in different situations there are like different modalities of entering your meal which might be most suitable, and it's not always the picture. I mean, picture is fantastic because it provides a lot of context, and in some cases it's clearly the simplest way. But yes, we do support logging by picture. You can scan barcodes. You can log by voice. You can just search the database. You can like copy your past meals, your favorite meals, your recipes, your most frequent items, all this kind of stuff, which like some of them sound like minor features, but actually in the everyday use and in the analytics, we see like people from these some of these minor improvements start to add significantly more meals. So yeah, it's not always kind of the big leaps, but they need to be there. Like, I think if you really like wanna provide a comprehensive solution around meal tracking, like all these modalities these days need to be there.
Yeah, I've been using it myself. I used it this morning with my breakfast sandwich. I took a
Mm.
picture of that and it instantly knew. It was like, that's an English muffin. And then it was like, optional ads. Do you want to add fried egg? I was like, yes, this has a fried egg. It said, do you want to add cheese? I was like, yes, this has cheese. So it worked flawlessly with that breakfast sandwich. Then I did a text entry. I
Mm.
could have done a verbal entry. I did a
Yeah.
text with this coffee I'm holding. I said 24 ounces with oat milk, and it immediately said that the amount of oat milk was 16 grams of carbs, which is crazy because that's exactly 16 to the dot. I don't do 15, I do 16 grams of carbs. So the fact that it estimated the exact amount that I've estimated, and I've crafted this oat milk amount like perfectly over the years, it was just really fascinating. And I have to say, like, Aurelian, great job with the app. It's very intuitive and clean and easy to understand. And just this morning using it, it got me excited to continue to use it. And I'm looking forward to all the benefits I'll get from it, because there is more benefit than just logging foods, right? Like, it's also the learning aspect to this
Mhm.
type of system, right? So before we get into glucose rates, which it does offer, tell me a little bit about, I noticed some messaging would come up occasionally, some suggestions. Tell me about these suggestions that are coming up on screen as you're uploading data and images and all that.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks a lot for sharing this story. I mean, that's fantastic. We're always super happy to hear this kind of like firsthand experiences. Um, and regards to your question on these suggestions, so we call them like meal tips, or in the context of the meal. And basically, they provide, I mean, on that very specific meal, which you took at that moment, like we provide suggestions on how you could potentially optimize that meal to then have better postprandial glucose. So maybe some inspiration for things you maybe want to add some. I don't know if you have a salad, maybe you want to add some nuts because it contains like some fat and so on, which might result in a lower increase slower increase in glucose, maybe, and things like that. So expect to see much more of that going into the future at many more different places in the app as we work more and more with the AI. We see these tips kind of as an additional layer on the data, where over time we will make them much more and more personalized. And eventually in the future, there might be settings which you can set on how you want to have these tips at the different places and so on. But maybe we can talk about it now or later. So yeah, that's these few things.
Yeah, well, and I think that that's where the power of AI really is, right? Because data is great, but a lot of people don't know what to do with the data. We've had access to our, Dexcom Clarity and our Libre logs and all of these things, but then using that data and those patterns on our own is daunting and nearly impossible for most people. Most people need the help of their endocrinologist, their diabetes educator to make changes like adding pistachios to their salad and things like that. And people with type 1, type 2, and all forms of diabetes could really benefit from suggestions like this. So it's, great to see that you're not just giving someone like, oh, it's 33 grams of carbs, bye. Like there's actual, suggestions and then glucose data that that starts to populate. So that's what also surprised me with the app. So tell me about these glucose rate predictions on the app. Once you start logging enough foods, it will start to tell you what is expected to happen to your glucose, right? Tell me about that.
Yeah, it's a feature we introduced earlier this year, and I mean, there's always a question around. Okay, do you want to, ideally you want to be more proactive and less reactive, and like that was kind of our initial angle to make that happen in combination with the meal tips which we just discussed about, and like how that works in Halos. It's a proprietary algorithm we have developed. It gives you, as you say, like estimates on like a range on how fast it will rise and when it will reach the peak. And how it works, you need to record a couple of meals, and then like it uses our very comprehensive database of meals associated with glucose and other data from the whole user base to kind derive predictions of users with similar metabolic responses. And therefore, we kind of avoid a bit the cold start problem, where often you need a lot of data to make meaningful predictions. But since we have this massive data source and are able to leverage that for the better of everyone, you don't need to record a crazy amount of meals, and you will get predictions for meals which you never even dreamed about eating. So that's kind of the cool thing around that.
How long does it take for the system to calibrate to your meals and your glucose levels to offer that information?
It's 3 days of data and 5 meals.
Are these glucose rate changes, they're personalized, right? It's all based off of the user's experience and their body.
That's correct. They're fully personalized, derived from like the overall database, but like they're fully personalized.
And it's using fat and carb data, like all of these different types of things, right? To be like, okay, well, this type of food, say you take a picture of a cheeseburger, the system's like, this is going to take, like it's doing this algorithmic math of glucose release into the bloodstream.
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, it's taking the actual meal plus like the past data. It already captured for you personally, and that's combined into this estimate.
Now tell me, how is your system learning over time from users inputting images and watching glucose data? Is your system getting smarter and smarter about how different foods affect different types of people? And your app even logs like exercises and things like that. Is it, gathering all of this data and just becoming smarter and smarter?
Yeah, like the personalization and the optimization aspect is happening on multiple levels. Like there are really a lot of levels and a lot of points where this is actually happening. And um, but yes, in short, it's getting better the more people use it, but also the more you individually use it. There might be small things like, for example, if you have last time eaten a certain meal, like it will remember that the portion size of the different ingredients, and when you add these ingredients next time, it will automatically use like a similar portion size if you search it, right? If you don't take a picture or otherwise use it, log it by voice, it will automatically kind of use those portion sizes. So it's a lot of these like small details. The same is in the image recognition. The same is if with these suggestions which you mentioned, right? You locked your sandwich, and kind of the other suggestions what it also had in that sandwich makes sense. Like these are also learned over time and personalized. So like it's a lot of like these very small like data driven things which make it incredibly valuable over time.
Yeah. So, what about exercise data? I know that SNAQ has multiple integrations with tracking devices like Oura Ring, Withings, Apple Watch, things like that. It's bringing in exercise data. How are you visualizing that exercise data? And, are we getting anything else other than just those visualizations on like the main graph?
So yeah, we visualize steps on the bottom, and like we color code them based on the intensity or like the number of steps you take within a certain hour interval. So the darker these like step hourly brackets are, like the more steps you took. And we also import exercises. So if you like log an exercise with your Apple Watch or with your Oura Ring, like this gets tagged. So if it was, I don't know, like running or cycling or swimming, like it will like automatically populate that, including the intensity, which is visible. And I mean, why did we develop it in the first place, right? Like, I mean, we're meal focused. The name is meal focused. The brand is meal focused, right? But why do we import exercise data? But it's just like the users were saying, okay, I mean, obviously it matters if I've been very active before a meal or whether I've been very
Absolutely.
active in a postprandial time. I don't know, maybe. I mean, you seem like doing a lot of sports. Maybe you can share
Well,
that, but or confirm.
absolutely. I think that they're the two of the biggest things with diabetes are food and exercise. These are
Mm.
two of the biggest factors in what affect your glucose levels. And it's relevant to exercise is relevant to food because if you eat an 100-gram food, but then you go run for 40 minutes, your like any basic system won't even register that you actually ate that much. But if a system took in that data that you ran for 40 minutes, it knows that this is what happens to your glucose levels with all of all of that food on board and your exercise, so that it's not creating false information,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because another system could easily be like, well, you didn't eat that much food, and because it didn't take in exercise data. But I think SNAQ and other apps like yours can only be stronger or truly workable if they take that data in, so that next time it offers up what happened to your glucose levels, it's relevant to the activity you had.
Exactly, yeah. Because even if you eat like the very same meal, like if you had different exercise patterns, like your response might be totally different. So it wouldn't be like comparable.
Yeah. Now, is your system at all offering suggestions or learning lessons from how exercise could or has affected your levels?
Very minimal. we mostly display data. We actually do include it a little bit in the meal tips, where we might include it a bit more in like where we're going next with like more AI features. But the focus of SNAQ is really strongly on the meal, and if there is other data needed, we'll add that as
Yeah.
needed in the context of meals.
Yeah, and hence the name. But I so easily, I mean, you've already created such an incredible database, and your app has learned so much from people, I'm sure, that there really is this other direction or facet to your app that could exist, whether it be the same app or a separate app that really is the same app, just a different name and like somewhat different interface, but it's called like track or something, you know, with like a little running emoji, but like where it almost flips it from exercise focused with a food ad, like food subsidizing it. I can easily see that. So, you know, maybe people should comment below if they think that SNAQ should put a little more focus on exercise. Let's do some market research right here, right now. So, yeah, let us know in the comments if you think Aurelian should start, you know, putting a little more emphasis on exercise and suggestions there. Tell me about your integrations. Like what devices does SNAQ work with? I guess we can start with like wearables, because we're kind of in that. I said Withings, which I wear a Withings watch. Of course, I didn't wear it. The one time I don't wear it is during this relevant conversation, but I love my Withings watch. I've talked about it a lot on my channel. Apple Watch, Garmin. Tell me about some of the tech people are wearing and using with SNAQ.
Sure. So these are the CGM devices, some BGM devices we support, like insulin pumps, as well as like all the or many of the activity trackers and the wearables. And in the future, there will be more data points which can be imported. We have kind of a few lists, a few things which will come possibly later this year, early next year. Just to, I mean, we operate a lot on like what people like request and want. I mean, we have a strategic roadmap, but like much of our shorter term roadmap is usually derived by user feedback. So, you know, whether it's comments below, or we actually in the app we have like a functionality to request features, and you see the whole list of stuff which we
Oh,
either
wow.
work on or you can request. And like people really actively use that and like upvote stuff and things like that, and then we'll let them know like when we're working on it and stuff. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. I'm sure you get comments that you're like, whoa, I didn't think about that. Or wow, that's a great idea, and I can implement that in an hour. You know, the crowdsourcing this information's only going to help grow your app, and it's going to, you know, bring up these ideas that you may have not thought of on your own. What pumps and CGMs are compatible with SNAQ?
I mean, it's Dexcom, it's Libra, it's Eversense as well from CGM side. Then on a pump side, it's mainly Omnipod. Yeah, we do also support some of the DIY open source stuff. So yeah, we really do our best to integrate as much of the diabetes device as we can. It's not always that easy, as as you know.
Yeah, and have you spoken to the other pump companies? Have you spoken to Medtronic and Tandem and Beta Bionics, like, and Twist that's coming out, that's already out, and all the other ones? Are they somewhat guarded? Like, why wouldn't they want their pump data to give you and your users that ability?
Yeah, this has been maybe something you would need to ask those companies, to be honest.
Okay,
Like, I
will
guess
do.
from a consumer point of view, like this is doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, what are
Like,
you hiding? Why aren't you
yeah,
giving us the ability to use the data to help us carb count and understand how foods affect us? Like, why aren't you unlocking all of the tools that we can use? Why are you building this wall for something that you don't offer? If Tandem offered SNAQ, their own proprietary SNAQ, okay, I understand, but they don't.
yeah, like, and you know, we will be the first to run in case of any of these integrations open up. Like, it's usually more in the priority issue on their side. And you
Gotcha.
know, those priorities are driven commercially, and eventually they don't see how that drives commercial value. I don't know, but
Yeah. Well, hopefully some people from those companies are listening right now and they're like, wow, I understand that a system like this could really help people. Like when it comes to platforms, like not device related, but more so platforms. I know Gluco is an area that you're able to use data from there. What about Tidepool? Have you looked at Tidepool? I know Tidepool can, get data from a lot of pumps and CGMs. I mean, that's kind of why it was created.
Mm. On the open source variant, yes. So Loop, because they're, it's easy to share data through Apple Health or I think also Google Health Connect. And through the Tidepool, I think we've been in touch with them a while ago about like a data integration, but that didn't work out so far yet. Possibly they had other
Okay.
priorities with their FDA clearance and things like that, but so far we don't offer it. But any company listening, whether device or data platform, I mean, just reach out. We're super happy to support more integrations with data sharing capabilities. Actually, both ways, like us importing their device data into SNAQ, as well as like sharing our meal data with their device or app. So I just think that will make the whole experience more valuable.
So with that, I know Dexcom's Smart Food Log will upload that data to Dexcom Clarity so it can be used. I would love to see something like SNAQ and the images and data that come from that being uploaded to my Tidepool, where I see my pump CGM data and my images and foods. Is that something that you can do with, is there a platform that exists outside of SNAQ where SNAQ data can be brought in and that can be displayed? And is that something that, I mean, it feels only right for that to kind of be a next step as long as someone supported it?
And unfortunately, currently, no. I mean, we do have our own reports, and we also do have our own like
Okay.
care platform or clinician portal, which is centered around meals. But unfortunately, none of the bigger existing provide or HCP solutions which enable that easily. Actually, not just from SNAQ, but from any other nutrition solution out there. It's usually not that easy to bring the data in.
Today's episode is sponsored by T1D Exchange. You can directly make an impact on diabetes healthcare, treatments, and technology by participating in the T1D Exchange registry. It starts with a simple survey about your life with T1D, and it only takes about 15 minutes. After that, you'll have a personal portal with ongoing T1D study and survey opportunities. Plus, some of these studies even offer compensation. Signing up with the link in the show notes helps support my channel, and it allows me to continue putting out free content. You can sign up at t1dexchange.org/diabetic or click that link in today's show notes.
Tell me about that care section of your app. What is that?
Yeah, so we provide different means on how you can share your data also with your provider. So like we share like or provide the usual like PDF reports where you see your meal data or your meal images if you took one together with your glucose insulin activity data, like around that meal. And so that's one thing, PDF. You can export it as an Excel file if you kind of want to do some modifications on the raw data yourself. And the care thing is a web dashboard, a web platform. It's free to use for providers, but actually also you as a consumer could use it as well. And that can link the app with the web dashboard, and you basically can see the data there. Yeah, or if you're a provider, you can see multiple patients and see their data.
Yeah, and I know you said that an AI helper is in the works for that care section, right? Tell me about what your aspirations are for this care section of your app.
Yeah, I mean the AI companion, so to say, that will not be specifically, or I mean, it will be holistic. It will not be for the care section, but well, primarily we would start on the consumer facing side. Where we will go next from where we are today is that we add this additional layer of abstraction to provide insight. And basically what we want to do is to provide everyone a nutritionist in your pocket, so to say. Someone who, or a capability who like has access to your data, has memory, which learns the personalization aspect over time and is 24/7 available for you. Whatever need you have around nutrition and managing.
Yeah, I had a follower message me letting me know that they've been using ChatGPT as their personal diabetes educator and telling them, their food habits and glucose levels and all of that and feeding it all of the data, and that the GPT's been offering advice in a non-judgmental way, which is what they really appreciated. And while I can't say that this is safe or not, and I would never recommend someone just listen to ChatGPT and take all of the instructions from it, it is an interesting sight into the future of how accessible this information to treating your diabetes could become and already is in some ways. And I'm hopeful that, we start seeing solutions like this that are easy for people to access.
The building blocks are here today. So with the LLMs, you basically have the PhD level knowledge in nearly every domain at the palm of your hand. So the knowledge component is there. Recently, like things like memory got introduced. So, it really starts to build up personalized memory on how you interact with these tools. It has access to, or it can have access to your data, can have access to tools, it can like execute tasks on your behalf, and it becomes increasingly like more multimodal, so you can interact with the text, with voice, with maybe video conferences or things like that in the future. So like really think that the time is now to start building truly personalized, extremely helpful companions in different sectors. And I think it will be helpful to an unimaginable level at the cost, which is totally not possible otherwise, and the availability and accessibility, which is totally not possible today with like in-human services.
Yeah, and with that, diabetes is such a personalized thing. Everyone is so different than the other that sometimes, this these learning language models that are putting together this data may not be right for someone, right? How do you navigate the safety and the liability when it comes to building a platform like this yourself?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, in the first place, again, I think it's again back to managing expectations and being clear on what it can do and what it can't do, and like taking people along that journey. And then like how we so far approach it is that we started with, tipping our toes in with relatively narrow use cases, which are lower risk and they have better controllability over instead of like really broad use cases where you just provide a chat or voice access to, and you can do anything. That's much tougher to control. Um, and then there are a lot of more tools which you can use when you're actually using the APIs instead of just like ChatGPT or Gemini, kind of the version which everyone can use. You can design the system much more constrained. You can control the context better. You can control the like the system prompt on how it will react and so on. And so that's on what we can do. And then the other thing is, I don't know, like, I mean, happy to hear your experience, but I think like hallucinations also just in general from the LLMs have gone down quite a lot. And um, the trust building increased, the more you use it, and for more complex stuff, you trust it more.
Yeah, but it is also important as someone who uses AI all the time that it still can hallucinate. While it may be
Absolutely.
hallucinating less often, you do need to check the sources that are coming from this device. So, I don't know if or when we will get to that point when there's zero hallucinations, but I believe when it comes to that, is there a way to make it so that the AI it's impossible for it to hallucinate because it's only using data from this subset, or it could still happen?
Um, I mean, what became much easier to build these days is that you can basically you let it use tools or services for certain things. So let's say I don't want to the AI do like just in check, let's say glucose data, and I don't want it to calculate time in range from that data I provided. I'll provide a service to calculate the time in range, and that service though is hard coded. And whenever the LLM thinks, okay, I'll need time in range data, for example, or I'll need like the total daily carbs from yesterday or whatever, like it will call a dedicated service, and that service will call like do the calculations, and that's just classical software engineering. You will, and the LLM will just take then the output, and that's much more controllability and less hallucinations.
Let's end with this. I want to hear your kind of dream scenario. Let's say, pump and CGM technology aside, we don't know where that's going in 5 years necessarily. But software wise, if you could have whatever you want happening with these AI companions and this technology, what do you envision someone's like day in the life would be with how they're interacting with this stuff in a few years?
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, I believe we'll have companions for different topic. Maybe I don't know if you know the movie Her.
Yes,
Like
I do.
with
It's a good
Samantha.
movie.
It
It's
is
also a little scary.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, obviously that didn't all went well, but like I think you can design systems which will be long-term helpful, beneficial, and enable you and assist and do stuff on your behalf. So a bit more specific, like you might get up, like you might want or not want interact with how you're doing, and your companion is kind of assisting you and run you through the day. And actually, I don't think it's only software. I think the intelligence will come out of the device and will come into hardware and into physical products like robots and things like that. Whether that's a 5 year or 10 year time frame, I don't know, but like maybe your future in the morning will actually be that your companion tells your robot to prepare like your optimal dish for the day, given what you have planned for that day, and obviously your preferences and things like that. And then afterwards, maybe you go to work. I think that will be mostly either like public transportation or it will be with your self-driving car. Which you don't own necessarily, but it will just be your Uber without the driver, like it's already everywhere in San Francisco, right?
Or self-driving buses. I think that there's going to
Yeah.
be a lot of buses and public transit like that. Yeah, that's all self-driving.
And those companions, if you stick with nutrition, right? If you need to like buy something like your groceries, which just work best for your health, it will just do it.
Yeah, and it would be interesting. I could imagine an AI companion being like, "Hey, I notice your heart rate's a bit elevated. Are you kind of working out right now? Like, I know you're running errands, but you're kind of exerting a lot of energy. Like, should we, set a higher range for your for your glucose?"
Yeah, like, and also on the personal, like on the emotional aspect. For the better, for the worse, I think you will start establishing kind of a relationship. I mean, if you think about relationships, right, it's like shared memories and like trust build up over time. The tools have now the capabilities to do that, and you know, together if with the PhD level knowledge and like the algorithmic and the data and the agency in regards to it can do stuff for you, it's maybe it's wonderful. Like maybe these companions aren't like Samantha in Her, but they're actually incredible, helpful and valuable and enrich your life, make your life easier, make your diabetes management easier. So
Yeah.
I'm an optimist. So I hope for that future.
Yeah, I'm definitely hopeful for all of it too. And I just hope that we don't become a more isolated, lonely society also. I think that it's still going to
Yeah.
be very important to have human connection and not just hang out with your AI companion all day, because that could easily be a situation as well, but inspiring or hoping that these systems and solutions are saving us enough time in the day that we can spend extra time with our friends and our family and community, which ultimately I think may keep us alive longer than, say, an insulin pump that's just performing so well with your AI companion.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very hopeful for this. Basically, it enables you. Ideally it makes us a better human being and like allow us to focus on the things we enjoy. And yeah, hope we can get into that future.
Aurelian, thank you so much for coming on the show and giving us a little peek at the future, but also there's so many promising things out now. And I'm hopeful that people check out SNAQ because I think it could really help people who are especially struggling with, carb counting and all that. So I'll throw a link to that in the show notes. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
Likewise, exciting conversation. If there are any feedback or questions, feel free to reach out. We're building this for you. So if there is anything we can do to make it better, let us know.
What do you think of the SNAQ app and AI in general when it comes to management? I'm sure some of you are a little afraid of it. I think that there's a lot of good that will come out of it. Let me know in the comments. If you're using a cool new app, if you're using SNAQ, let me know what you think and answer that question we had in the podcast earlier. We've got the newsletter and blog, diabetic.info. Make sure you sign up for that. It's a free newsletter that is in the show notes. We've got news articles coming out every week. I'm Justin, and I'll tech you later.